If your goal is to have a lean, defined, shapely physique, then you gotta be doing deadlifts, because deadlifts are one of the most effective exercises for building strength, but what comes with that is increased fat loss. When you build muscle mass, your body burns calories more efficiently. So even if your primary goal is weight loss, you still should be doing deadlifts. However, they can very easily be done incorrectly, and that could be very, very dangerous for your back. So in this video, I'm going to show you the do's and don'ts for deadlifting, and we're gonna go over the most common mistakes that are most dangerous that you do not want to make. Also, if you are a beginner and you do not have the strength built up yet to deadlift with 45-pound plates, I'm gonna show you how to properly do the movement with the current weight that you're using. Happy deadlifting! Okay, so first we're gonna go over the setup, because that is absolutely essential. If you start the lift wrong, it's going to end wrong. So you want the barbell to be positioned over your mid-foot. And from there, you're going to bend over, grab the bar, and pull it towards you. Now throughout the deadlift, you want your shins to be fairly perpendicular to the ground, so you don't want to be really leaning forward. The next thing you want to think about is always keeping the bar against your legs throughout the lift. If you stand up and it's all the way out here, that is literally gonna kill your back, and it is just not at all what you ever want to do. So again, start with bar mid-foot, bend over, and pull it towards you. Now, the next thing you want to do is make sure you're keeping your lats and your arms tight. You don't want to be gripping this too wide, so make sure you're keeping them fairly close to your body. So, close to your body, squeeze your lats, make sure your chest is relatively up. You want to be hunched over. Now, the next thing is a common mistake. People will start with their hips super, super low, like it's a squat. You do not want to think of your deadlift as a squat. It's not an up and down movement in that way. It's more of a back and forth movement. It's called a hip hinge. So that means you're pushing your hips back and then bringing them forward. Grab the deadlift. You grab the barbell, squeeze, and then keep it against the shins, and then stand up. Now, something else you want to do is start with your scapula, which is where your arm meets your body. You want it over the bar, because if you're, again, way too far forward, then your shins are off, you're just setting your movement up the wrong way. So try and get a little bit further back. Don't be forward, so like this, and then squeeze. Okay, so it's important to remember that throughout the movement, the bar will be like scraping against your shins, because again, if they're far away from your legs, you're gonna hurt your back. So if you're wearing, you might not wanna wear shorts because it will hurt. So yeah, make sure you're wearing pants. I've had, not with these pants, but some leggings, I found that the bar will actually kind of make marks on them. So if you have a pair of leggings that you love and don't want ruined, maybe don't wear them during deadlifts, because I've had some ruined. Not these though. Navigation, strong. Now, something that you don't want to do is hyperextend. You do not need to stand backwards. That's just gonna risk hurting your lower back. You don't need to do that. So just stand, make sure you're locking out. You don't want to end like here. Lock out, and then lower back down. Another important thing is breathing. So what you want to do is take a big breath through your nose at the beginning before you start. So and then down. So I breathe in through my nose, big breath, stand up and breathe out, and then drop back down. When you're doing the deadlift, Taking a big proper breath is also gonna help you brace. You almost wanna be pushing your stomach out because, again, if you're not bracing, you'll hurt your lower back. The movement doesn't have as much power. So when you breathe, brace. Okay, so next thing is a big mistake. When you do a deadlift, you need to make sure you're not bouncing the bar off the floor. Before you do your next rep, let it settle and then pick it back up again. So this is what you don't want to do. So that's for a couple reasons. First, it makes it easier for the form to get sloppy. So of course that increases your risk of injury. That's the one problem. The other problem is it kind of helps you cheat a little bit with the movement because the bar is kind of bouncing a little bit. When you let it come to a full stop, you will notice it's harder, but that's why it's called a deadlift. It has to come through a dead stop on the ground when it's conventional or sumo. Even in terms of proper breathing, if you're bouncing the bar, it's so hard to do that because you can't take the time to take a breath because you're just going up and down. Whereas when you let the bar stop, it gives you time to take a big breath and then do the lift. Now, the other thing we want to cover is grip. So there's a couple different ways to grip. I personally have always done the reverse grip. So one hand is going to grip under and the other hand is going to grip over. And this just gives you more strength. If you grip it this way, just with both hands over, it's going to be hard to use as much weight. The bar is likely to slip. If you do want to grip it this way, you can use straps, but if you're using straps, try to do one set without them just so you're working your grip strength a little bit. Okay, so for a sumo deadlift, it is very similar, but your legs are going to be in a wider stance. Now, it can vary from person to person, whatever feels best. Like for me, it doesn't feel right if it's super wide, but obviously you don't want it to be like shoulder width or like conventional. So I kind of pick like a happy medium between the two, but just test it out. Over time, you will figure out what feels best for you. Now you also want to make sure that your feet aren't just pointing forward. They need to be pointed out a little bit, otherwise the bar will run into your knees when you do the lift. So keep them turned out. Now, this is for another change from sumo and conventional. In sumo, your arms are going to be inside your legs, whereas in conventional, they're outside. I still try to hold on to this part just so it's not slippery. So yeah, turn out a little bit, grip, really squeeze your upper body, and lift. And same thing, you want the bar to come to a dead stop. If you're a beginner and you haven't worked up to using 45-pound plates yet in your deadlift, you are going to want to adjust the height, because if you're just using, like, say, a 45-pound bar and you've got 5, 10, even 25-pound plates on that, the range of motion is going to be larger, and a lot of people don't have the mobility for that and can either get injured, but also you want your deadlift to always be very consistent with technique. So if you're learning it and you're using small plates and gradually getting bigger and bigger, the technique is going to change as that happens, and that's not what you want. So these two little methods are going to help you perform the deadlift as if you already are doing it on 45-pound plates. Now, if your gym has bumper plates, you won't need this because those are small, lighter plates that are the same size as 45-pound plates, so you're good to go. Now, out of these two methods I'm gonna show you, the second one is so much easier and more so what I recommend doing. However, sometimes things just don't work out how we want them to. Maybe like that piece of equipment is being used, who knows? So if you cannot do the second technique, you will have to do the first technique that I show you. That one's a bit more of a hassle to set up, but honestly, sometimes when you're new at something, you have to go through kind of like an awkward struggle phase, but stick with it. It is so worth it. Your strength will go up, and before you know it, you won't need to do these extra little setups, and you'll just walk in and be good to go. So first, you're gonna wanna make sure you know roughly what the height of the bar should be. So you're going to grab a 45-pound plate and hold it on its side and stand next to it and line it up with your shin. Now, wherever the hole in the middle of the plate lands by your leg, that is the height the barbell should be. So it might not be exact, but it's gonna give you a bit of an idea. But don't stress if you don't have things to make it the exact height. As long as it's not all the way on the ground, you're good. So with this method here, we are using two 45-pound plates underneath the barbell. So as you can see here, you gotta make sure it's lined up properly, because if it's not, the barbell's not gonna land evenly on the ground, which is a recipe for disaster. So I'm just lining things up, making sure it all is even. Both sides of the barbell are landing on the same spot on the plate. Now I had to use two plates. That's still a little bit low, but one was definitely way too low. Okay, so here I try to set, and then I realized that I didn't set the plates up very well, because every time I went to the bottom of the deadlift, the plates would slide around. It was completely uneven. Okay, so the bar kept getting caught on this here, so I'm just turning it so the plate can gracefully land and not slide all over the frickin' place. And then from there, it went much smoother. So I have not ever had to do this, so I didn't know how to place it. So maybe the first time or two, it may be a bit of a pain in the butt figuring out where it should go, but once you've done it and you've gotten used to it, it will be so much easier and not a giant pain to figure out. Okay, so this is the second method, which is definitely easier to set up, but not all squat racks are the same, so it's good to know multiple different methods in case this one doesn't work for you. So what you're doing is putting the bar on the safety pins of the squat rack. So at this gym, putting that on the lowest notch was just the perfect height. Different squat racks might be a little bit different, so just test out where it lands and what height it should be, and then you're good to go. And as you can see, you can do this technique with sumo or conventional. And that is how you deadlift. So I'm going to be putting out some more videos with other styles of deadlifts, like Romanian deadlifts. That is a very common one to do incorrectly. I was actually just Googling some things before I filmed this, and I saw a picture from Shape magazine, and they had a picture of Romanian deadlifts, and it looked horrific. So now I'm even more excited to put out that next video. That's all. Stay tuned for that video. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.